I rewatched WandaVision. One sitting, start to finish. How long did it take me? 6.5 hours? Yeah, that sounds right. So I rewatched WandaVision, mainly just in kind of refamiliarize myself with the story before going into Multiverse of Madness this week, which, I'm so hyped for. 1 year later, WandaVision. So, what were my thoughts before coming into it? Honestly, I was worried because I was worried more than anything, thinking that a lot of the appeal, a lot of the kind of enjoyment, right, that was taken, and a lot of the enjoyment taken from watching the show derived from its mystery aspect, right? Kind of like episode after episode, week after week, just kind of being filter fed, a little bit of information at a time, and just like they keep giving us a little bit more and more, a little bit more to keep making like some theories off of. And yeah, just kind of going through that process each week of, kind of taking in the episode, and then coming up with thoughts, theories as far as like who is behind everything, what does it all mean for the greater picture of the MCU. I was under the impression that perhaps a lot of the enjoyment from the show was based off of that. And now, having had watched it, right, having now knowing the story in its entirety, how it works or how it goes and about, and how things end and how things develop and end in the show, right? Now, having that knowledge, right, would it still be enjoyable, right? Would it still be a good show to watch? So that was my worry going into it, that I actually was not going to like it as much, that I was actually going to like kind of like back off a little bit on it and be like, hey, maybe it's not as good. Maybe I was just like caught up in the hype, caught up in like the mystery of it all, and maybe I can cool it a bit. Bro, believe it or not, I have fallen in love even harder with WandaVision. Yes, sir. I enjoyed it even more on the second watching. Even more so. Kind of nuts, because I didn't expect it, to be honest. I didn't expect it. I either expected it to not like it as much because of the lack of the mystery and everything, the experience, let's say, or that I would just kind of like it the same. But no, I liked it even more. Now, you might be wondering why. Why did I like it more? Well, I think what it mainly comes down to is the fact that knowing how the story like works, how the story plays out, right? It does something in the sense that, sure, there's not as much mystery, right? There's not like theory making and all that stuff, and spending like hours just like thinking about, oh, like what does this mean, like how could this possibly affect everything, maybe this character is behind it all, maybe, sure, you lose all of that, but what you get in return is being able to kind of like hyper focus, right, on the stuff that matters, right? Because here's the thing: while you're in that, while you're in the that process of like the weekly episodes coming out, the theory, the coming up with theories, when you're going through that, you're considering everything in anything that's coming up, right? And you're just kind of like spreading your net like as wide as possible to like kind of like pick at everything and seeing like what can become of anything and everything that's popping up in the show. Now, knowing how the show plays out, right? Knowing how what's going to happen at the end, it allows you, it gives you the opportunity to say, oh, okay, like this, I know that how that turned out, it didn't like really amount to anything or not all that much. So let's, I'm not going to pay that much attention to that. This is something, another, line where kind of led somewhere, or they were kind of alluding to something, but it didn't really amount to anything, right? So you kind of like You're kind of just like pushing the stuff that doesn't matter to the sides, and you're just able to focus 100% on the stuff that does matter, right? The stuff that they did focus on, the stuff that they did like play out to its completion, right? And because of that, I feel like it was so much better. All of a sudden, now I'm not worrying about who the hell this aerospace engineer is and whether he matters or not, because at the end of the day, he didn't matter, right? We all thought he was going to be Reed Richards. That's not anyone else from the comics. It's just a random soldier lady that was friends with Monica's mom. Great. I don't have to worry about that. The fact that they got the same actor, right, from the X-Men movies, from the newer X-Men movies, who portrayed Quicksilver to play Quicksilver in the MCU, right? I don't have to worry about whether, what implications this has in regards to the multiverse, whether, they're bringing in characters from those movies into the MCU, how that's all going to happen and how all that's going to play out. I don't have to worry about any of that because I know, right, that is just a boner joke at the end of the day, right? So I can put that to the side. Having that stuff to the side, I got to really just hyper focus and concentrate on what the show was, the story that they were trying to tell. And it was a story of love, a story of grief, the story of Wanda and Vision and their family. And bro, that shit tore me apart, bro. I love it. Yeah. I loved it just as much. I loved it a lot the first time, but even more the second time because I was just able to, my undivided attention was on that storyline, right? And, the little things that they were and what they were going through, right? I was able to like notice like more like little things like right from the very start, right? The people of Westview, right? They were all sharing Wanda's grief when Monica, is that her name? Yeah, Monica. When Monica gets knocked out of the hex and she's they got her like in a medical tent. They're kind of like running tests on her, make sure she's all right. And you get these little like flashes, right? These little like quick cuts of different scenes. And I had to notice that within those cuts, it actually shows Wanda in the next to last episode, right? Where she's like at the house that Vision had bought so that they could live old together, right? And she just kind of breaks down and starts crying there, thus giving birth to Westview, right? There were actually like little clips of that scene in that part all the way at episode 3 or 4. That was episode 4. All the way from episode 4, it was already showing us stuff that was going to happen all the way in episode 8, right? Almost at the end of the series. So it was cool. It was just cool being able to like pick up on little stuff like that. So the first episode, so it's great in establishing the kind of like the mystery tone, the weird tone, right? So constantly you'll get like these moments, up until I guess episode 4, which is like really when kind of like the curtain is pulled back, not completely, but just like a little bit. But yeah, up until that point, you get these like weird moments that like kind of take you out of the reality of everything that's going on in the show. And in the first episode, that happens with the dinner scene, and when like the Vision's boss starts choking, right? And then it just gets like really weird, and the boss's wife just keeps saying, "Stop, please stop, please stop." Now noticing that like she's saying stop, not so much to like the husband choking, but more so to Wanda, right? Telling her to stop, to kind of like get out of her head, stop controlling them, right? That was cool. Yeah, so that like little moment, it's so good because it's like in an entire episode, which was basically dedicated to like that old, like the Dick Van Dyke Show, the the old school sitcom, in which they did a great, an awesome job with, right? You just get this little moment where they just like are able to throw in like this like uh the weirdness, the mystery, right? And it just works perfectly. It's just like a perfect balance. It's yeah. The episode 1 is for me top notch. Yeah. Episode 2, I will say, out of all of them, episode 2 was probably the one episode that I was kind of like the most like, okay, this episode's kind of like a little dull, right? Because they got like this whole, the whole like shenanigans going on with the talent show, sure. You know what it is also, right? Upon first watching it, they introduced Dottie, right? Dottie is there as kind of like, here's the thing. On the second viewing, you realize that Dottie is just a red herring, right? Dottie's just there to throw you from like, to throw you off the what's the word? Throw you off your scent, right? In regards to suspecting anything from Agnes / Agatha, right? That's all Dottie is, right? They kept at it, right? I mean, a lot of people were suspecting Dottie. A lot of people were thinking even me in particular was thinking like something's up with Dottie, right? She's got to be like, she's got to play a role in this. And it turns out, no, that was just, they were just like throwing us, like trying to throw us off course, right? So now, having that knowledge, right, that Dottie isn't anything, right? Doesn't turn out to be anything. This episode has a lot less like going for it, right? Because now that scene with like Dottie is kind of just like, like who cares? Dottie's not anyone. Dottie's just like, Dottie's nothing, right? This is the one episode that loses it's a lot of its oomph on the second viewing. Episode 4 is, I will say, this episode stands out in particular for the opening, right? The opening with the blip, right? The snap that brings everyone back, and Monica included, and she shows up at the hospital, and it's complete chaos, and everyone's like, "What's happening? Like, holy shit, what's happening?" I love that. I love that so much, bro. Because something interesting to note in this episode, Monica in this episode actually is when we get like those kind of like flashes to like that Monica gets for the towards the end of the series, right? But on top of that, Monica is the one that just, she flat out says it, right? Right from this episode, she says it. It's Wanda. It's Wanda doing everything, right? She flat out says it. Like, she just straight up reveals it, right? That it's Wanda. But at least me in particular, I don't think anyone else at that point would have accepted the fact that like Wanda was the one behind it all. Everyone, I'm pretty sure it was a pretty common consensus that there was another something else at work there, right? Either a villain or something else was happening. Couldn't just all be Wanda. And I found it very interesting that just like Monica just flat out says it here, and just like nobody thought of it. Yeah, nobody wanted to accept it, I guess. Episode 5, Norm. We get the one scene where like Vision's at work, and he kind of like snaps Norm out of Wanda's like mind control, and then like Norm is able to like, oh shit, where's my phone? I gotta call my sister. My dad's sick. That was so good. It actually like brought me back like right back to Moon Knight, right? Oscar Isaac's performance, which is, bro, oh, so fucking good. The actor who played Norm here did a really good job with that also, having that kind of like just split second like change in personality. Really good. I don't remember exactly when this happened, but I noted here that Wanda, she says that she doesn't even remember how it all started. I guess when she was having that confrontation with Vision is when it happened. But yeah, I found that was really interesting, right? Because the fact that her grief, right? Her grief was so strong that it kind of just like blacked out this like part of her memory. This is really good because grief, right? You have like intense moments of grief, and that alone, I mean, that happens, right? It's, a lot of times you'll just like block the stuff out of your memory. Just so, and it's subconscious at times too. I remember I had like a really intense moment when I was like when I was younger, when I was living in Canada. And then all of a sudden, like I was talking on the phone, and this is like years afterwards, right? I think like I want to say what, maybe not 10, but maybe like around 6, 7 years. I was like on the phone talking to my friends, and then all of a sudden it just snapped. It just like, and all of a sudden it just came to my mind, and I remembered it. And it just like all these emotions just started flooding in. And I was like, oh, fuck, what the hell? That's right. I did that. Holy shit. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy how kind of like grief and like intense moments like that can do that to you. Episode 8, which for me is a freaking masterpiece. Episode 8 is so good. So good from start to finish. It is so fucking good. It's just a godly episode. In the first part, right in the beginning with like Agatha's kind of like backstory, all that stuff, really cool. The effects look nice. Just like a cool sequence overall. Something to note, which I hadn't noticed before, Agatha's mom in that one scene at the start where they all got her tied up to the post and they're shooting at her. Agatha's mom has like a kind of tiara thing show up, kind of similar to the Scarlet Witch, only that it's like it's blue, right? I hadn't noticed that before, so I wonder if I'm kind of like wondering if Agatha's mom is actually like supposed to be like kind of like a big player in regards to like in the Marvel verse as a whole. Was wondering about that. But yeah, that whole opening with Agatha is great. And then we get into the whole Wanda kind of walking through her memories through the different stages of her life. And so good. Something that I still am thinking and that I'm wondering and about as far as like Multiverse of Madness, right? And how it could possibly affect it is the origin of Scarlet Witch, right? Because it seems like Scarlet Witch, we get that one scene where Wanda's at the at Hydra, right? And they're running the experiment on her, and that's when they touch her, or she touches the Mind Stone from the scepter. And then you get that one kind of like moment where the vision happens and like the Scarlet Witch kind of like comes to her, right? Kind of like a symbolic type of thing. But I'm left wondering whether the Scarlet Witch was actually always inside of her, whether it was something that she always like took, that she always had inherently inside of her, or if the Scarlet Witch is kind of like the Phoenix Force, right? Where it's kind of like this separate entity. And it was trapped inside the Mind Stone, and it came out at that moment, and it was kind of like imbued inside of Wanda. I wonder about that, and I wonder if that'll like play any role at all in Multiverse of Madness. But yeah, just the entirety of that episode, it's oh man, everything like from her, the moment where she's like with her a young child with her parents, to the moment where she has that like intimate moment with Vision. It's so good. And then we also get White Vision, right, at the end. And I'm also, in regards to Multiverse of Madness, right, I'm kind of thinking like, will he show up, right? Will we see that White Vision come into play? I mean, I think it's pretty possible, but yeah. But yeah, overall, episode 8, godlike. And then the last episode, just the culmination, everything plays out, everyone's fighting, right? Monica's fighting Ralph Boner. Boner. There's so many people upset at that about that. I ultimately, I mean, I wasn't upset as much as like there were a lot of people upset about that. It was like, oh, like they just baited us thinking like they were gonna combine like the multiverse, but they just did a boner joke. The thing is, I guess I never got my hopes up. I never thought that was gonna like amount to anything as far as like multiverse and stuff like that. So I guess that's like the advantage that I had. So that at the end of the day, when I did reveal the boner, it was like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. I was too busy focused on like Wanda and Vision and even Monica for that part. So yeah, Monica went up against Boner. Vision went up against White Vision. That fight, I love how it ended. Right, I love the fact that like it ended the way that it ended, with them two just kind of like, going, slowly spinning around the library, just like talking about the ship of Theseus and what is real and what is not real. And bro, it was it was so good. It was it was the perfect way to end that encounter. Cause yeah, it just made, for the character that is Vision, it just made perfect sense. It was so good. And then Wanda's fight with Agnes ended so well as well. It was genius. Just like the fact that like Wanda was like presented this like one little thing, right? The runes, right? Being within like the runes, only the spellcaster who set the runes can use her magic. A little like tiny like detail, right? That you normally wouldn't pick up on, and she did. She picked up on it, and she used that to her advantage, and she outsmarted her enemy. That's it. That's all. I mean, as far as like fights go, bro, that's right. So good. So good. The way like those encounters, those altercations were resolved. Mega Brain God, like 5-head God, God brain, God level shit. So good. I love that. And then just the resolution at the end, the final, like the way that they kind of gave the proper moment, a proper send off to everything at the end, right? Where they were able to give their moment to Wanda to say her goodbyes to her kids and to Vision, and just like the intimacy of that moment, of those moments. And it was done perfectly as well. The finale, and that's why that I say out of all of the Marvel series, the finale for WandaVision is the best. Yeah. Without a doubt the best. A lot of people may be upset about a lot of people were upset about like the Boner stuff. I think a lot of people were kind of like let down with like Monica as well, but I mean, I think she'll have her moment. I think the main thing with her was kind of like setting her up for the future. And I remember I said this back when I was doing like the weekly reviews also. As far as like the main emphasis, the main focus of the show, which is Wanda, her grief, her love, her vision, her family, right? That like being the nucleus of the show. They did the best job that you could possibly do to neatly just like put a bow on that and send it out. It was perfect. It was perfect. So the last thing in regards to Multiverse of Madness, the teaser at the end where we see Wanda's like up in like the secluded place up in the mountains, and she's like in her own little cabin, and she walks in. We go to the back room and we see that Scarlet Witch is there, kind of reading through the Darkhold, right? Kind of getting, I guess, just getting everything she can out of there. I'm left wondering, what is that exactly? Because originally, upon first watching it, I remember that I thought, oh, that's an astral projection, right? But is it? Because if you use an astral projection, your physical body can't do anything, right? Your physical body, I mean, that's basically the rules that were established even in Doctor Strange, right? But Wanda's actually moving, right? So it's either one or two things. It's like some god level astral projection shit that she acquired because she's just like an omega level like being, right? And she's able to astral project and at the same time to kind of like go about and do whatever and, live her life. Or now knowing at this point about variants in the multiverse, is that a variant? Gotta wonder. Is that a variant? Are those two different Wandas in that one location there? We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, so that was just kind of like the breakdown. Overall, WandaVision, top notch, amazing. In general, that's what like I would say I took away from rewatching WandaVision for the yeah, for the second time a year later.